Well, many thanks for staying with us. And in case you're joining us right now, you're just in time for the conversation in regards to the global war, that is the Israel, US, and Iran war and its impact on local and international trade. The war has, of course, been ongoing for almost a month now, over a month now. And of course, there are impacts in regards to that, in regards to matters fuel, in regards to matters, exportations and importations. And we're here to help you understand and get a feel of what it means even for you at home, economically speaking. And of course, like I alluded to earlier on, I'm joined by three amazing women. And next to me is Margaret Njoki, who is an exporter. Very good evening to you.
Good evening to you too.
Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And next to Margaret Njoki is Sheila Olang. Of course, I know Sheila needs no introduction, but she's an economist and governance expert. Many thanks for making time, Sheila.
Thanks for having me.
Now, last but not least is Ellen Mudama, who is also an exporter. Very good evening to you.
Good evening too.
Many thanks.
Thank you.
Well, before we begin this conversation, let's just listen in to what traders here in the country have to say in regards to the impact of that particular war on them. Let's listen in.
In terms of value, every week we lose an average of $8 million. And for the last 3 weeks, we have lost an average of $24 million because of the conflict in Middle East.
Always, once you ship, that's when the buyers on the other end release their money. And cash flow is becoming a problem.
So we are reporting on what we have lost as a region, but it is important to note that Kenya is the largest producer of tea and exporter of tea in the world. So the country that bears the brunt of this current conflict is Kenya, because Kenya controls 75% of what is sold through the Mombasa tea auction.
Well, interesting to hear that they've lost $24 million in the past 3 weeks and the war has been ongoing. Now, just for context to begin with, Margaret Njoki, I want to begin with you. Just for context, tell us what you do. Of course, we know you are an exporter, but what exactly do you deal with?
So thank you, Ian. Margaret Njoki comes from Sunripe. Sunripe, we deal with exports of avocado, fresh vegetables, and also part of value additional. So we basically export to different parts, mainly UAE, Spain, Europe, and we mainly deal with those particular
Fair
products.
enough. Thank you. Fair enough. Before we engage Sheila, Ellen, what do you deal in at the moment as we speak?
Okay, thank you, Ian. As I said, my name is Ellen, Director of Novel Blooms Limited. So we deal with the exports of fresh cut flowers, coffee, and tea to different destinations, Middle East being one of our major for the products I've listed. We also do Europe and other countries, even in Asia.
Fair enough. Now, just to continue with you as well, you've talked and alluded about Middle East, and so has she. In the 1 month that we've seen this war intensify, how has business been for you as an exporter?
I must say, in my time in business, I've never faced such a situation before. Particularly for flowers, we were set to export 500,000 stems to the Middle East on 8th. It was actually 8th to 10th of March, but we had to halt the whole process. Why? Because of the cancellation of orders due to the airspace closures and restrictions that took place, the uncertainty that was also going on. So remember that a product like flowers, they are perishable. And so any delays or any cancellation destroys the whole shipment or the whole consignment. So for us, we had to cancel such orders that were so immediate. And some of these flowers had to go back to farms. And once they went back there, they were turned to compost. Tea and coffee were affected because, okay, they go by sea. So we realized a notable increase in the freight charges. But now, because they were already in the transit period, but then we couldn't hold such a thing. But for flowers, we've had to cancel. The entire month of March, we haven't done any flower exports due to how fragile that shipment can be in such times.
What is the estimated, loss, for example, during that particular period? You've talked about 500,000 stems.
Yeah.
What is the loss that you guys have, taken in?
So, let me speak as a sector in whole, that for flowers we do, 10 to 15% of flower exports go to the Middle East market. Over the last 3 weeks, the first 3 weeks of March, we faced a loss that was amounting to $4.8 million US, which is roughly 220 million. So also the Kenya Flour Council noted that if these disruptions continue, then we are going to see a loss or a disruption of $1.3 million US worth of flour exports weekly. So the loss has been there. I won't just speak as one flour exporter, but the whole sector as a whole, we have faced such massive losses.
Fair enough. Let me come back to you, Margaret. How's business been for you?
Business has been hard. For us, for vegetables, people have to eat. And for us as a company and maybe most of the exporters, they have to look at filling the shelves. Because most of the products we do in Kenya directly go to the shelves in Dubai, in most of the major supermarkets. So when there was cancellation of flights, we had to take all the produce back to our warehouses, which meant almost 70% of our vegetables. Vegetables meaning beans, tender stem broccoli, avocados, and nothing could move. And just to highlight on that, it also went to capacity constraint because when there was shortage of flights, the rates just skyrocketed. So in a day, we have 20 flights going to UAE. And just on one day, all the flights just stop. So there was product at the airport. People were expecting to ship just like normal. And just that you can't anticipate war. Just you're told nothing is moving, no flights are moving. You have to take back your orders. So clients also on the other side, they're like, we can't first give you orders. Let's look for capacity. When you look for capacity, rates are 3-4 times more expensive than the normal rate that we always work with. So it's been quite a hard month, more than COVID, I might say.
Fair enough. Sheila, hearing from the perspective of both Margaret and Ellen, from an economic standpoint, what does that mean for us as a country?
I think listening to the two exporters, the ladies who are here with me, it opened up an even wider perspective than what I thought it would look like. A lot of people often think about tea. There's a lot of reporting on tea and coffee, and we're not thinking about avocados, we're not thinking about flowers, because we're thinking a lot about products that we're actually sending out to the Middle East. Now, anytime you have a crisis such as the one we have now, we must realize that the traditional biggest impact space is that of energy insecurity. What does this mean? It means that we have, the Strait of Hormuz, where we need a lot of oil that comes in. Kenya, we are a net importer of oil. We actually barely produce any oil. So we're importing oil. So this means that immediately our products then, because we need to export, we need the two ladies who are here with me to export in order for us to be able to make, to earn dollars even within the country. So the minute they're telling you, it's been a week, I've not been able to make money, I'm losing 1.3 million worth of flowers here. You saw the tea sector saying that they're losing about $8 million, not shillings, per week, because you have a lot of consignment that is stuck within the port. Just means that is income that we are losing as a country that we should have gotten in. So am I surprised by this? No. More often than not, this is the impact that you have when you have a crisis that affects the energy sector. The energy sector is a sector that gets to impact a larger scale of the economy. One of the biggest enemies of any economy is uncertainty. An economy does not like uncertainty. It likes to be able to predict, that we know that the price will be at certain X to Y. Today, we are moving from a barrel of oil going from $100, now we're looking at almost $120, and this means that when you get fuel in, what you could ask, what is the importance of energy? Energy drives many sectors beyond just the energy sector itself. Energy is your means of production. Once your production cost goes up, it means the goods themselves, the products that you're having will go higher. Energy also means that transport, for example, is affected, right? Beyond the insecurity, it's just that when you have fuel prices that are higher or scarcity of energy, it means that transport costs go up, and therefore the goods and the products also go up. This in turn will contribute to inflation. We'll start seeing the price of goods and services going up. But Ian, there's maybe a larger discussion that maybe we need to center it around the importance of agriculture to our country. And we're not seeing it yet, we're not discussing it now. Now we're talking about produce. but we're not thinking about the security in terms of the input. So we have fertilizer. About 40% of inputs that go into fertilizer are within the Middle East. So you have a country like Qatar. And when we'll start eventually seeing the effect of having this lack of access to fertilizer, I saw that President Ruto said we have enough stock, so we don't need to worry. But we cannot predict how long the war will go on for, right? So that it can meet our stock. And we're already having a shortfall or a food insecurity situation that we are seeing. If we are not able to have fertilizer, if we are not able to produce food, and I'm talking about very basic consumption, what will happen is that food prices will also go up because we will not be able to have a surplus of production. So there's a lot that can affect us as we sit as Kenya, although we are not directly, facing the conflict itself. But from an economic perspective, I think the major 4 impacts that I would focus on would be, 1, that inflation would go up because production is more expensive, transport is more expensive, due to the energy supply shock, a rise in shipping costs. That is something that we should expect. And then finally, sectors globally, such as tourism, will also be affected because a lot of people, especially in Africa, are going to the Middle East or going to Dubai for holidays. Once people are not able to move around, then tourism sector is also affected between Europe and the Middle East. So there's a lot to unpack.
Fair enough. Let me come back to you. As we speak, are there viable alternative markets for products that you trade in? And it is also very concerning because it will be on a short notice. So is there any available, viable, ready markets, alternative markets for your products?
Yes, they are there. First, to begin with, for an exporter to be successful within export business, you have to be ready to adapt. This is not the first global war that we have faced. We've seen the Russia-Ukraine war, we've seen Yemen civil war, which affected the Red Sea routes. We've seen the Israel-Hamas war, the Gaza conflict. So it's not the first global war that we can say we have faced. So any exporter needs to be ready to handle such shocks that come from geopolitical instability. So going to the question that you've asked, the CS of Agriculture and Livestock Development, CS Kagwe, said that actually it was actually in the course of this month, he said that agricultural products from Kenya to China are going to be duty-free from May 1st, but he insisted on us doing value addition. So what am I here to say? That we saw a China delegation last week. We were actually part of whatever was going on. So China is already an immediate market that we are now focusing on. For our flowers, yes, we do them to Europe, but now we are also extending to Asia, particularly China. It's a 1.4 billion kind of market because the population of China is 1.4 billion. The consumer base is 900 million. So that already gives us a very good alternative market for us. So it's time for us as Kenyans and as exporters to start identifying these markets. And even as we identify, let us start directing our produce there without waiting for another conflict to arise or maybe for this particular one in Middle East to persist. So China, I'd say, is already an immediate market that we are pursuing as we speak.
Fair enough. So from what I'm getting is that even going forward, we need to diversify in terms of, our exportations.
Yes, we need to, because we cannot really predict how long this conflict will take.
Okay.
We also can't predict which other wars are going to arise in the course of time. I must note that for the tea exports, yes, I've had some losses are there, but back in 2025, we recorded an increase despite the Russia-Ukraine war that was happening. So our exports in 2024 were valued at 215 billion. In 2025, they were valued at 218 billion. So we see an increase that happened despite the conflicts that were already pre-existing. So that means that it's time for us to continue getting alternative markets, alternative routes, and seeking immediate solutions to help us, because we cannot tell our farmers to stop producing. And the issue here currently is not demand. Demand is there, supply is there, but the issue is now logistics and, the supply chain being affected. So once we streamline that, despite the wars that are there, then we are able to safeguard the entire agricultural value chain.
Now, let me come to you. Thank you, Ella. Let me come to you, Margaret. How does, if you're diversifying, if you're looking for other viable markets, how does, the rerouting affect the quality of products? Because it now takes a different channel as opposed to one that, you guys had anticipated before.
Yes. So luckily, as she's mentioned, the war has been there. We've had another war that happened that that brought issues on the Red Sea, right? So from last year, we've already been using the long routes. Somewhere we were going with 28 days by sea. Now we're going with 40 days. We did it last year, but we were hoping this year it would be much easier because the Red Sea issue would have been sorted out. But unfortunately, we are back again to the same situation. Luckily, we had already tried improving our qualities, just making sure we are ready for the long routes. And to just say, for example, if an avocado is harvested, it has a shelf life. So luckily, we've been able to just learn, just understand how to make our avocados have a longer shelf life and just how to take care of the fruit and the quality, just to make sure by the time it gets to the market, it's not bad quality. So yes, the war will affect the air freight. So it comes back to the topic where we need to talk about sustainability, carbon prints, not using air freight a lot. We have now to see how to add value to most of our products, because now we will be forced to use the sea freight. Because with the inconsistency of air, we will be forced to use sea freight. So that comes to where we need to start doing value additional to most of our products, which is quite a heavy investment. And maybe the government can assist in this, because the moment we value add our products, even though it has a shelf life of 2 years and above, our farmers won't go at loss, the exporter won't go at loss, because with all this war, the exporter, to be honest, is facing the highest. Because the farmer, you gave this contract to a farmer 10 weeks ago, they have delivered your product, they have brought it to you, they don't mind about the war, they don't know even about it. For them, Maggie, you wanted this product, here it is. So we need to see how to value add and how to make our products not just perishables.
Okay, she alluded to 500,000 stems or so. How much of your current inventory is stranded as we speak?
I can give it a percentage, 70% of what we're supposed to be exporting now.
Fair enough. Now, before I go back to Sheila and throw this to both you and Ellen, sorry. Like she said, we rely heavily on the Gulf region in terms of fertilizer and chemicals. Are we likely to probably face a shortage this current planting season in regards to that, because of the war that is affecting the Middle East at large?
I think they're saying the government has assured us that we won't have a shortage, but what we anticipate is price skyrocketing. That we're already seeing. And for the inputs, for the packaging, because we're also getting packaging in Sri Lanka and these other countries. So we anticipate not shortage, but skyrocketing of prices.
Okay, Ellen?
I'll agree with her. The president released a statement saying that we need to be confident because the fertilizers that are there, the stock that is there, can last us till September of this year. So on fertilizers, I'm confident because I believe that even the government has put in a lot when it comes to, the warehousing facility where fertilizers can be stocked. So that one, I'm sure it's okay. But just to agree with her is that something we are sure we are going to face is increase in prices, both air freight, sea freight, every charge that is there because of the fuel issue that is ongoing. So for fuel, that we know, and we anticipate an increase because even the amount of money we used to use to get flowers from, the farm to either Jomo Kenyatta or in Mombasa, it's going to increase because of the fuel increase. So that we know shall increase. But for fertilizer, we are a bit confident that this season is not going to be affected.
If there's an increase in the cost of fertilizer, for example, like Margaret has alluded to, and you've also talked about it, what will be the implications from your end as an exporter?
So fertilizer is a very key component in the production cost of any product, talk of flowers, coffee, or tea. So once that increases, that price is going to be passed to me. And once it's passed to me as an exporter, I'm going to pass it to the person that is getting the goods on the other end. So we are going to see a price increase across the entire chain. And at times, maybe our buyers or the importers might not understand whatever is happening. So it's going to be on me as an exporter. So that means I'm going to experience maybe shorter margins as I had expected earlier. So yes, the price is going to be shifted mostly to the exporter and also the importer on the other end.
Fair enough. We'll be taking a break in a short while, and I'll come back to you, Sheila, once we come back from the break. But I want to hear from, again, both of you, in terms of if this war persists, and I'll begin with you, Margaret, if this war persists, are you looking at probably scaling down operations, laying off staff? What will be the impact, if at all it persists?
Unfortunately, we have already started because in a day where you were doing a day shift and a night shift, now without confirmation of flights, without confirmation of orders, we have to lay off one shift. It has narrowed down to a point where we just planning on ad hoc. There is a flight coming, okay, let's plan. Now it has really affected labor. And also the farmers, they are not, already the crop is there, so they have to harvest, they have to bring it in. So yes, it has affected labor in a big way.
It not only affects you and the people you've employed, but also the farmer,
yes,
straight in the
farmer
villages.
straight, because 10 weeks ago they planted. 10 weeks ago we told them we are going to sell this. So it's up to the exporter to know where you'll take this specific product that is already in your pack house. The client is already saying there is market, the supermarkets are empty, the shelves are empty, but no flights. So the customer is also saying, I can get it from other origins. If I can get it cheaper at other origins, as I wait for you to sort out what's actually happening on your side, then my shelves have to be full. So also in a cash flow scenario, both in Kenya and also with the common Mwananchi, it's going to be affected.
Ellen, briefly before we take a break.
Okay, so for the month of March, we had a consignment that was spanning to millions of stems. These are millions of stems that haven't left the country. And I cannot keep flowers beyond a certain point of time because they take, let's say for roses, 10 to 14 days, their vase life. So that means it has to be turned to compost. Who am I going to give flowers right now and tell them, you know, this is a bunch of flowers here in Kenya, you can have them. So it's really brought a very huge effect. Most clients have also cancelled orders, so it means you have to reverse the money and all these things. So on my side, I'm not getting the revenue that I require to operate the business on a daily. Something else is that for you to consolidate, let's say 1 million, 2 million stems, you need a whole team to help you, from the farm to the airport and also when it arrives. So these are people that I have to lay off. We had to lay off around 3, and also the intention to hire others, you can't hire now because we are in a state of confusion and just waiting to see what happens next.
Okay, pretty much. We're taking a brief breather, but we'll be back to address the issues of, policy mitigation and also the current volatility, because the president talks about diversification. But, how soon can that happen? That will be after this brief breather. Don't go away.